Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 update 1.40. Now alongside the new update, we did finally get two new full-blown menus in the form of the WTC 900, which is a brand new type of menu that we've not seen in game before, and one focusing around the Red Bull X series as well. In this video I'm going to give you a full guide and rundown of the World Touring Car 900. Now, just a quick side note about this menu book. It's a little bit of a strange one. So it does feature 3 events, obviously up to a 900 pp rating, but it does seem that all of the cars focus on the sort of Super GT, JGTC era of vehicles, meaning you have a bunch of sort of, I guess, Group 2 vehicles as well as Group 3, most of which are nowhere near the 900 pp limit. So it's just a little bit weird and doesn't sit quite right with me, to be totally honest. So I'm going to take advantage of that actually and run a Group 1 vehicle, and I fully recommend you guys doing it as well. I'm going to run the Porsche LMP1 Hybrid, perhaps the most powerful car in Group 1 and probably the best overall as well, especially under BOP conditions, which this obviously is not. So you can really take a ton of advantage of this sort of, you know, I guess rule set of a 900 pp limit here. It would have been more, I guess, maybe making sense if it was sort of Group 1 and Group 2, but no, you're mostly going to see Group 2 and Group 3 vehicles, mainly centered around, like I said, Super GT and JGTC vehicles. So let's get straight into it. So we're going to head into the cafe, or the Gran Turismo Cafe, whatever you want to call it, and as you can see we've got menu book number 48, World Touring Car 900. It's a 5-star roulette ticket reward. We have 3 events for this one with the goal of 3rd place. We have Japan Autopolis, Germany Nurburgring GP, and Japan once again with Suzuka Circuit. Now, as you can see, we're going to have a little chat with Lucas here, and he's just going to tell us all about it and what he recommends is a Group 2. Like I said, we're going to take advantage of that and go, you know, sort of one step higher and focus on a Group 1 vehicle. Whilst we might not have the overall top speed, that hybrid power and the amount of sheer downforce in these vehicles is going to allow us to, you know, hopefully take an easy win. So let's jump into the tuning that I have on this vehicle. Like I mentioned, I'm running the Porsche Hybrid. So you don't really need to change too much. All I recommend is getting all of the tyre compounds ranging from hard, medium, soft, as well as rain tyres. Now, I didn't get any rain during my playthrough. I'm not sure if it is kind of turned on and randomised. You also want to ensure that you've got the racing transmission, and you're pretty much good to go there. So let's head over to Autopolis for our first of the 3 events. All of them are the same format. They're 10-lap events, all at 900 pp or less. Now, in terms of difficulty, I'm going to show you a playthrough on the hardest difficulty. Now, for run number 1, I'm going to run the racing mediums on the car. Nothing else realistically needs changing. You can go for full downforce in this vehicle if that's what you prefer. Now, to begin with, you're going to see that I'm actually going to put the fuel mix at 6. This is just because I'm getting a general gist of sort of where the fuel consumption's at with this vehicle. But overall, I recommend just keeping it at fuel mix 1 and just working your way nicely through the pack. If you want the clean race bonus, try and avoid any contact. I'm not going to end up with a clean race bonus here, but you'll get the 50% bonus on top of the original payout for obviously completing this event. So the main thing you're doing here is basically just working your way through the pack as quick as possible. As you can see, I finally did end up turning the engine back up. Now, as you can see from the fuel consumption, we're getting around about 8 laps here. We're around about, you know, a lap and a half in. Now, I do recommend that at some point to turn the engine down, but I'll tell you exactly when. Just to begin with, make sure you're as fast as possible, just working your way through the pack and then starting to begin the fuel saving and tyre saving process, as the racing mediums we do have on are going to begin falling off probably around about the sort of, you know, 3/4 point. That's where you need to start worrying about sort of conserving the tyres. So on to lap 3 here, we're catching up with a few more vehicles. We're going to try it down the inside there, getting a little bit of a kick out, obviously losing downforce at the lower speeds here in the Porsche, which is just never a good thing. It's going to cause the rear to obviously kick out. So we're going to battle away with this Nissan, hopefully work our way through as quick as possible. And as you can see here, we've got the first of a couple of groups of vehicles. Now, I found this through most of the events that certain types of vehicles will sort of group up around certain points of the track. You know, they'll just follow each other, or they'll just kind of get stuck behind each other. There's usually kind of two separate groups that will end up doing this during the event, with the rest of the cars being, you know, a little bit more spread out. So you're going to take a decent chunk away there, and we're up to P9 on lap 3. Now moving on to lap 4, we're just behind the Honda NSX here, and we've also turned the engine down. This is where I recommend you start taking it a little bit more easy. Think about conserving those mediums. Again, we've got decent pace, they've got decent life, and they will last the entire race, but you want to start kind of, you know, turning the engine down, reducing any wheel spin, any slip, things like that. On to lap 5 again, we've caught the second pack. This is sort of what I like to call the front pack, where the leader will probably be a little bit ahead of them, but then you've got a general pack. Now, as you can see, in terms of our overall top speed, we're nowhere near as quick once the hybrid system has, you know, kind of gave us that initial boost than the Group 2s. So we are at a disadvantage in terms of the straight line speed. Just sit in the slipstream and just start planning ahead for your overtaking to be done. As you can see here, we're going to try it down the inside of the GTR, but then the GTR moves over. Was going to attempt to move on the Lexus there by the look of it. So we do get a little bit cut off. We're going to back out of it and just kind of, you know, get ourselves ready and put it around the outside there. Now we should have enough drive off. As you can see, we're going to have the hybrid to give us a nice little boost, and around the outside of the GTR we go before chasing down this Lexus, getting it up the inside and getting that move done. Sat in P2 here now on lap 6. A lot of the other cars will be pitting at a later stage. So we're going to go around the outside of the McLaren, which is currently in the lead, and now we can start thinking about full fuel and tyre conservation. So here we go, turning the engine mode down to 6. I do recommend doing it at this point. Kind of make sure you're taking the lead anywhere from sort of lap 6 to lap 8 at most, and then start thinking about turning that engine down. Conserve your fuel, and you should have plenty of fuel to get you to the end. As you can see, the rest of the AI, they're kind of oddballs when they pit. Some of them will sort of pit really kind of midpoint. Some will pit literally going on to their final lap like you're seeing here. But overall, you should have a decent advantage coming to the end of the race there. So that is race 1, Autopolis, done and dusted. Rather quite easy, completely up to you if you want to run the mediums or hards. Overall, we did a time of 16 minutes 8 seconds, 0.459. Our fastest lap was on lap 5 of a 1:36.054, with around about a 30 to 35 second gap to P2. Now we're going to take away 150,000 credits for that win there. Again, not too much in terms of the payout, and we didn't get the clean race bonus for that added 50%, but it does give us a nice little stamp on our menu book, and then we're going to move on to the Nrburgring next. So overall, event number 1, really not too difficult. Again, in terms of your strategy, you can go on the racing hards, but you're not going to have really too much pace on those. You'll still probably be able to easily beat the event, but again, that overall pace isn't going to be there that you're going to get on the mediums. You can do it on the mediums, but just be kind of aware from about lap 8, lap 9. That's where they're really going to start dropping off, and you need to be a lot more careful. That's why I recommend once you've taken the lead, just to, you know, start conserving those tires and start saving that fuel, just to ensure that you don't need to do an unnecessary pit stop right at the last second, just like the AI do really. So we're going to move on to event number 2 of 3. This is the Nurburgring GP, once again a 10 lap race. I'd say in terms of overall pace of the AI and their strategies, this was the most difficult of the bunch. Now I'm going to run an alternate strategy here. I'm going to run onto the racing hard tyres and attempt a 0 stop for this one. So once we manage to get in and get loaded up, we're basically going to do a complete opposite strategy of what we did at Autopolis. We're actually going to go into full lean mode to begin with and just run it this way for around about 6 laps. This gave me, you know, enough fuel at the end to just kind of cruise across with around about half a lap of fuel or so, and the tyres still in relatively good condition. So we're going to go for full tyre conservation and full fuel in terms of, you know, preserving that and making sure we can get ourselves all the way to the end without a zero, you know, without stopping. Now, in terms of working your way through the AI, they're going to be much tougher to beat. Obviously, we don't have the straight line speed. The engine's completely turned down, so, you know, even with the hybrid, we're just not going to be as quick as we would running it at its maximum potential. So again, just take your time, make your overtakes as clean as possible, unlike me there, who ended up clattering into the side of the CLK-LM. But yeah, definitely just take your time, work your way through the pack as much as possible, and then when you get onto lap 4, I recommend just turning the engine up, and this should give you enough fuel to get all the way to the end. As you can see, I got onto lap 4, I'm sitting around about P12, I'm going to turn the engine up, and this is going to give us a ton more power, a ton more one lap potential, and we're just going to begin to work our way through the grid. Now, in terms of the AI strategy, this is where it's definitely a lot more differing from the one at Autopolis. Although you'll kind of run into the groups of cars, and some will pit at the midpoint, some will pit at the end. I believe also that some of the cars just won't pit at all, and in fact the car that you're seeing at the top of the table there on the left hand side actually didn't bother pitting at all, meaning that if we had have taken a pit stop in here, we'd have lost a ton of time and probably cost us an overall victory. So I do recommend actually running the sort of racing hard zero stop strategy, at least for the Nurburgring. It's going to change up once again when we head to Suzuka, and it's obviously a different strategy from Autopolis, but this was definitely the best way to run it, just to ensure that we don't have to take a pit stop. It is sure that we've got enough tyre life all the way to the end, and we should be absolutely golden for a win. So there we go, that's the move for first place. Now, we're not going to, you know, majorly gap that vehicle. It's going to manage to stay within around about 10 seconds or so for the majority of this race. As you can see, we're rounding the final few corners now. We've got around about half a lap of fuel left, so again we've saved just enough before turning it up on lap 1, and as you can see, the car behind us just never bothered pitting, meaning that he did manage to stay with us for the majority of the race. We just couldn't outright blast away like we could at Autopolis. So that's race 2 of 3 done and dusted. I fully recommend a zero stop strategy for that one. In terms of our overall time, it was a bit longer at a 17 minutes 57.245, with the fastest lap coming on lap 10 and the final lap with a 1:45.792. Only just beating the non-stopping GTR there, who also had a pretty decent gap to P3. So just watch out for that car if you're going to be playing through this event. In terms of the payout, again, we took 135,000 credits from this one. No cleans, did get a bit of contact there with the CLK early on in the event. Decent payout, really, you know, nothing amazing, but average at best. And we took the Nurburgring GP stamp as well. Now, like I said, definitely in terms of the free events, this was the most difficult of the bunch, just mainly because that zero stopping vehicle really could have been a thorn in my side. If I'd have gone for the mediums and, you know, gone flat out as possible and took that pit stop, then there is a good chance I may have ended up behind that car towards the end. So I do recommend just take the zero stop, take it nice and easy for a few laps, then turn the engine up, and you should be golden to the end. Just like I said, watch out for any of the cars that may end up pulling a no stopper, because they are going to be the main people that you're up against in terms of the overall race potential. A lot of the other cars will pit in round about the midpoint or maybe a little bit later on in the event, but again, just watch for that zero stopper. Now let's move on to event number 3, which is going to take us to Suzuka. So let's head over to the final event of the 3. Again, another 10 lap race, this time around Suzuka with a bit better of a payout. As you can see, 170,000 credits for this one. And once again, we're going to use a completely different strategy to go ahead and win this race. So what I'm going to do is begin on the racing mediums. I'm not actually going to fuel save at all through this race, and we're also going to include a pit stop for the first time in all 3 of the races. So let's go ahead and get straight into the race. So the first thing I'm going to do is just charge on as quickly as possible through the pack. Now, in terms of just getting through them, I just fully recommend just do it as cleanly as possible. Try and just get used to the track, especially if you're not too confident in the likes of a Group 1 or Group 2. It's a very technical but very, very rewarding track. Obviously, Suzuka, it's just an absolute blast to play through. Now, I'm going to just fast forward a little bit, go on to lap 4. As you can see, the mediums are starting to wear. I noticed that tyre life here was definitely not as good as the likes of Autopolis and such. We're definitely beginning to feel a bit of wear quite early on. So we're going to work our way through the pack and again begin to try and charge down that first place. So we're around about 10 seconds behind him at this point. But what we're aiming to do is just get on the back of him as soon as possible. We did that a lap later, on to lap 5. And as you can see, once we're past him, we just want to gap him as much as possible. This point, we're going to think about doing a pit stop. But I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to hang the car out for one more lap and then pit at the end of lap 6. We've built up a decent gap, as you can see, around about 7 seconds as we come through here. And now we're going to dive into the pits, put the car on full racing soft, so we're at maximum performance potential, and fuel it a little bit just to ensure that we've got enough fuel to the end. Like I said, we're not fuel saving here, we're not saving tyres, we are just going absolutely flat out. And by lap 6 anyway, or come the end of it, those racing mediums were pretty much starting to wear and really starting to get a bit more slippy. So we're going to go on to the racing softs now, just to finish up and be at our maximum potential. So as you can see, when we're going to come out of the pits, we've dropped down to P4, around about a 15-second gap from P1. But I'm pretty confident that on these softs we can manage to get that gap down as soon as possible. At the end of lap 7 we did manage to get it down, but then the 2 cars ahead of me decided to pit anyway. So now we're pretty much home and dry. We just need to ensure that we keep the racing softs in as best condition as possible and just go as flat out as possible. Down these big long straights we have a massive disadvantage, but we are going to try and make use of that by making it up in the corners. And coming towards the end of the event with the racing softs starting to drop off, we did end up having a bit of a slip, but we had a decent margin of around about 30 seconds or so to P2. So there we go, that is it. That is the final event done and dusted for the World Touring Car 900. So as you can see, we did an overall time a little bit longer this time at 18 minutes 12 seconds .898. We did a fastest lap on lap 9 of a 1 minute 45.269 with a gap of around about 30 seconds plus to P2. AI really not putting up much of a fight for this one. Easy enough to get away with a nice little pit stop strategy here. 170,000 credits, once again not getting the clean race bonus. Bit of contact through the kind of midpoint of the race and slipping off there at the end. Definitely blew our chances of that. Definitely the highest paying of the bunch. Pays a lot more compared to the Nrburgring, and that is going to give us our final stamp for the World Touring Car 900. So definitely in terms of this event, I wouldn't say it's possibly the easiest, but it's definitely more in line with Autopolis rather than how the Ring event was. The AI, whilst they do have decent pace and there is a possible chance that P1 may be way up the road, as long as you do your strategy properly, you should be able to gap them in pretty much no time or really. Once you take the lead, I'd recommend just diving in, going for maximum potential and sprinting to the finish. So we're going to head back to the cafe menu, or sorry, the cafe itself, should I say, and go and claim our 5-star roulette ticket reward. So let's have a look. What are we going to be given for this? Probably something that I'm not really too much of a fan of, and we're going to end up there with the part, and we're going to see what this is going to be for. So this is the tuning part stroke up S for the Subaru Impreza Sedan WRX 2004. So there we go. That is the first of the 2 new menu books to come with Gran Turismo 7 1.40. I'll be finishing up the Red Bull one a little bit later on, so do expect that a little bit further down the line. Then I'll go ahead and complete the other events that I kind of put in the update as well, and then I'll do a massive guide including this video, the next video, and then obviously the new events as well that don't kind of correlate to a menu book. So we have a full guide for all of the new events that came alongside update 1.40 or GT7 Spec 2, whatever you want to call it. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully this guide does help you out, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.